On April 10, 1912, a first-class passenger sat down and wrote a letter home before his new ship had even cleared the harbor. He wasn't awed by it. He wasn't afraid of it either. "It is a fine ship," he wrote, "but I shall await my journey's end before I pass judgment on her." He meant the ship. He had no idea he was also describing himself. The man writing it was Colonel Archibald Gracie IV, a West Point graduate, a Civil War historian who had just finished a book on the Battle of Chickamauga, and a widower in his 50s, heading home to New York. He'd crossed to Europe aboard an older liner, the Oceanic, and booked his return on this one instead. The largest ship in the world, on her very first voyage. He boarded at Southampton, cabin C-51, and by the time the ship reached Queenstown the next morning, he'd already mailed this letter to a friend, A.P. Brooks, waiting at the Waldorf Hotel in London. Here is part of what he wrote. "It is a fine ship, but I shall await my journey's end before I pass judgment on her. The Oceanic is like an old friend, and while she does not possess the elaborate style and varied amusement of this big ship, still her seaworthy qualities and yacht-like appearance make me miss her. It was very kind of you to give me this kindly send-off with best wishes for your success and happiness. Archibald Gracie." For 4 days, Gracie lived the life he described, an easy one. Mornings in the swimming pool and squash court, afternoons in the library, evenings holding court with a group of passengers he nicknamed our coterie, telling Civil War stories to anyone who'd listen. He'd also taken it upon himself to look after several women traveling without husbands or escorts, making sure they were seated, attended to, and safe. On the 14th of April, he did all of this exactly as he had every day before. At 11:40 that night, Gracie felt a jolt and came up on deck to find out why. Within the hour, he was helping load women and children into lifeboats alongside the ship's officers. In his own words, later, "My friend Clinch Smith made the proposition that we should leave and go toward the stern. But there arose before us a mass of humanity several lines deep. Oh, the agony of it." When the last boat pulled away, Gracie was still on board. As the ship went under, he was pulled beneath the surface, came up beside an overturned collapsible lifeboat, and climbed onto it with a few dozen other men. Clinch Smith was not one of them. For the rest of the night, Gracie and the others clung to the slick hull of the overturned boat, as, one by one, exhausted men lost their grip and slipped into the water. By the time 2 lifeboats reached them at dawn, more than half were gone. Gracie was too weak to jump for the boat himself. Sailors pulled him in. He reached the rescue ship Carpathia that morning, the ship he'd called a fine ship, and refused to judge early, had answered his letter in the worst way there was. In 5 days, not a lifetime. Gracie returned to New York and began writing his own account of what happened, determined to set the record straight while it was still fresh. But he never fully recovered. He was already diabetic, and the hours in freezing water had wrecked what health he had left. That November, he was well enough to attend a Thanksgiving dinner. Days later, he fell into a coma. Colonel Archibald Gracie died on December 4th, 1912, 8 months after the sinking, and months before his book, The Truth About the Titanic, reached print. He never saw it published. The letter he mailed from Queenstown outlived him by more than a century, kept quietly by the recipient's family, never sold, rarely even shown. In 2025, it went to auction and sold for $399,000. The only known letter Archibald Gracie wrote from aboard the Titanic. He never got to pass judgment on the ship, but 5 days after he wrote that letter, the world did it for him.